So they'll be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. In the last episode we pretty much saw the world exploding into pieces with the War of Empires that destroyed the Merodrian Empire, the Romani Empire and the state of Galicia, and has left many new nations and has made nations way stronger. But in this episode we'll be having the start of our new era, the Age of Fragmentation that I leaked in the last episode, so let's waste no time and get straight into this video. First of all, we are gonna go to the newly established African Union. They are happy, they just won the war and regained their independence. This is the union between the state of Algeria and Lovia, but this union is failing. The reason it's failing, well, for this we would kinda need to go over to the religion layer, and we see the effects of the Merodrian genocides. Basically all of the Lovian religion is destroyed, it's all genocided, it's all dead, while the Algeli religion is still stable and still standing in here, but it also had suffered because Algeli was occupied for like centuries. So really neither of these nations do want to stay in this union anymore. Although on paper it seemed good in the actual sense of ruling the country and establishing it after they gained their independence, they really didn't know what to do with it. So we'll have the two nations from the union splitting away peacefully. And it is here that we welcome back Algeli, and then we make a new Lovian state. Now hold on a second, this is not at all Lovia, this is not what Lovia was, it's a different state, it's a successor state to Lovia, and that's pretty obvious. Again, going back to the religion layer, their religion and their culture has been genocided by a certain someone. So this is not the same state, but it's a successor of it. But as for Algeli, this is kinda sort of the same state. It's still kinda successor, but it's more close to what it used to be. So yes, its name will be Algeli, and it will adopt a similar flag to the original one. So overall we can say that yeah, Algeli is back, and we also have a new Lovian state. And their capital will be right into this major city of Lovia, and yes, this is their new capital, and we have our new successor state to Lovia. But mind you, although we have Algeli back, again they have suffered some instability and some changes to their culture, so you might also see a split between Algeli. But going away from the African Union that lasted for a very short while, we'll now go to one of the biggest victors of the war, and this is Al-Dikta. And what's happening to Al-Dikta is them experiencing some very, and I mean very bad instability. They have recently annexed a very vital area, this being the core land of Merodria, the strongest nation in the world, and this was very good for them, they have gained a lot from it. But this is a lot of land to take, and really they don't have all the necessary assets and all that to assimilate the territory. So they all decided to do a pretty bold move, but a pretty good one, and this is to release some of their lesser developed territory, and this will be right around here in Lake Tanganyika. And although it's a bold move, it will be a pretty good one for Al-Dikta, as they will release their territories here in the Lake Tanganyika territory that they had conquered a very long time ago. This is pretty historical land, but it was their most useless piece of land, so the best they could do so that they don't collapse was to release this territory, and this allows them to kind of look over better over their people and over their nation. Also, all the nations here in the south are friendly with Al-Dikta, so they have nothing to worry about. But now going over here to Persia, we are having them experience some pretty bad instability. They kinda lost the grip over their nation, and more exactly this happens over here in Sri Lanka. Persia is a pretty new state, it was found only a couple centuries ago, and it's already one of the more stronger and more powerful states in the world. But as they experience too much instability, they will make the decision 2 release Sri Lanka, and we'll have the birth of the Sri Lankan state over here in the tip of India. But now it's been a while since we did the last power rankings. In fact, this is the second time we ever do some in the series, and we are gonna do some because, as you can see, the strongest nation in the world no longer exists. First of all, we see Teria being the strongest nation in the world. It's pretty fair though, they've defeated Merodria, and they've been first ever since they defeated them, so they really do deserve the number 1 place. Although number 2 is a newcomer, and this is none other than Derlandia, also pretty fair. They've defeated the Southern Empire, aka the Romani Empire, and they are now from the Northern Empire, have ended up to being nicknamed the European Empire. They've grown a lot in power, so also they deserve their place. 3 is Aldicta, again a pretty fair one. They are one of the victors of the War of Empires. They've defeated Merodria, have taken all their core land, some very valuable land, so they have inherited a lot of their power as well. And now I'm gonna speedrun through the rest. So at 4 we have the Poukian Union, fair enough, very big country and has a lot of valuable land, so it's pretty self-explanatory why they are 4th. 5th is Ivoria. This is the purple Russian nation. They are neutral in the war, so that allowed them to build up. Then at 6th we got Persdia, fair enough, very big nation and a lot of valuable land. At 7th we have Algely. This is the North African nation in here. They used to be stronger, but then the African Union collapsed here with Lovia, and that kind of pushed them back a bit. Then at 8 we have the Second Romani Republic. This might be shocking, but you know, they still have the core land of the Romani Empire, so because of this they are still quite a bit strong. At 9 we got Tanish. This is the Greek state. And at 10th we got Siberia, the Sino-Iberian Union. Both of these have literally the same reason. They defeated the Romani Empire in the War of Empires, so that allowed them to get very strong. But this does it for the power rankings, and now we can go back to our scheduled program. Well, now we go to some of the weakest nations in the world, and these are the Saharan states, and they'll be releasing some land. And these are the unclaiming lines. First of all, we'll have Kimrush release this huge province out of their territory, and then to Herneland we'll have them also release this territory of their land, and now they are, in my opinion, pretty more fairly sized, because before they used to be huge and that was quite unrealistic, so problem solved. Then into Quascaria, although they have expanded over in these lands quite a very little while ago, in fact only like 2 episodes ago, due to decreased imperialism and nationalism for their state, will have them have to release some of these southern lands. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they are still pretty strong and pretty huge, but now they have less land. But speaking of something Quascaria did, we are now gonna go back to this group of their navy which rebelled from them. They are doing great. They have discovered the entirety of Java, and now they are starting to discover more Indonesian islands. They will go island by island and discover all of them around like this until they reach the island of Timor-Leste, and here is where they stop. But not so fast, as now they are also gonna hop here into Sumatra and explore some of this island. Not too much though, because their main exploration groups were there into these islands. But you know, they keep exploring through these islands, but they might have some issues up north. The nation of Raksim will now hop into Sumatra and start to explore it, going over through the northern parts of the island and exploring quite a good bit of it, and this is about where they stop. But then they also explore this little island of the archipelago, and this is how the exploration looks so far. But let's say that there might be something pretty bad happening over in here. And in case you can't tell, this group is this timeline's version of the pirates. Now going over here into Caucasia, we'll have a new nation breaking away from Gasius and a bit of Danesia, and this new nation will be here into these provinces of Gasius, into these two provinces to be more exact, and also it will include this little province of Danesia that was more assimilated to this region. And this nation will be forming around like this, and now we have another nation to the Russian gang. But now we need to go to the ideology layer because this thing is outdated. And first of all, I want you guys to look at the new Yugoslavian nation. Well, this nation is gonna adopt kinda sort of a new ideology, and this is gonna become a theocracy. Basically a nation ruled by a priest, and a nation that is very based on religion, and basically a nation that is religious extremist. Then the second change comes over to the Farmers Union, as they are gonna go the Hibernia path and adopt neutralism. Basically they are very anti-war and very pro-neutrality, and basically promise that yeah, we ain't going to wars, guys. Going to the Romani Republic, oh yeah, okay. Honestly, democracy really ain't something for the Romanis at this point. It's not as bad as a dictatorship, but they go back into monarchy. You know, the monarchy isn't that bad. I mean, at the end of the day, like 90% of their neighbors are also monarchies. But yeah, the democracy kind of failed, but the republic is still here, so for now they are fine. But let's say that some stuff inside the Romani Empire might be brewing, with still some imperialist nationalists being throughout the nation. Now we are gonna go to the Indian subcontinent, and this is also gonna be the appearance of kinda sort of a new ideology, and this is gonna be an oligarchy. Oligarchy makes its way into Persia and spreads across the subcontinent throughout the two other Indian nations and throughout the Pakistani nation, and also throughout the huge Central Asian nation, and already oligarchy is kinda picking steam. Sabroja, surprisingly enough, becomes a theocracy, which will kinda hurt their nation, so we'll see how that affects them. And interestingly enough, Raksim, the Malaysian nation, becomes a theocracy, so these are all pretty interesting choices of ideology, so we'll see how that affects these nations. And now going to the unfortunate Central Asian nation, yeah, they turn into an oligarchy, and this really did hurt their nation, as now a part of it breaks away here into this province. And then for Soshu, they are one of the bigger countries, but now it has also come their time to lose land, as this part of the Kamchatka Peninsula breaks away from them, taking this one province with them, which kinda hurts Soshu, but you know, it wasn't really valuable land. I mean, as if their entire nation is really valuable land, but still they lost land, so this is not very good. And we'll be plopping their capital right here into the tip of the Kamchatka Peninsula. First of all, we are gonna go here into the Saharan region, where Herneland is becoming very, and I mean very unstable. Their instability goes through the roof. It's just insane instability. Pretty much the state is anarchist, and after all this struggle comes, we'll have the dissolution of Herneland and its state. And now without Herneland, Kimrush is asking itself what they should do with their lives, and this is a pretty good question, as now they are left in the middle of the Sahara with little to no resources, so they might see a similar fate soon. Now Zerasia is experiencing similar instability to all the nations currently in the world, and they will make the decision to only keep their little lake area around here and release all the far outside territories over in here, releasing the 3 provinces, and they'll release them just like that, and they keep the rest, and now they're a way more stable and a way stronger nation, as now they get rid of the territories they really didn't want. Going away from them now, Silaria will have a similar fate to them. Not as bad as one though, as they will only be releasing this one province. It's pretty much for the same reasons as all the other nations. It's just useless land that takes them up too many resources. So they decide that this is the best for their nation, and they are way more humane size for a nation. Now to Sabrosia, it's a nation that has already released territory, as they released these northern European islands, but their instability just doesn't stop growing, as now they are also forced to release this territory. This time they are literally forced, because there's like some foreign tribes that are attacking them from this side into this province, and it's better to not get that smoke with the tribes. So they do this by releasing this one province. Also the instability for them is going through the roof, is just insane. And we'll have Sabrosia release this island, the one province, and the other island, and now they are again way smaller, and again they are starting to get a bit more stable, but maybe there's still some land left. Well, why am I saying this? Well, this is for a very good reason, as now going to Ivoria will have them experiencing some heavy instability, which will kind of force them into having to release some land over in here. This is alarmingly close to their capital, so it's not very good that they are having to release this land, but when it just gets too unstable, this is what they do. And this new nation doesn't just keep all the land from Ivoria, they also take this one province from Sabrosia. Poor Sabrosia is crying underneath, as they pretty much lost like 90% of their land. Legend says they are gonna get a very big revenge arc though. But for now that will not be the case, as we'll have the formation of this kind of seafoam green colored Russian state forming around in here. Now Mantasia will find itself very unstable. They are a very huge nation, so maybe they should have expected this. Legend says they did, but they were formed a very long time ago as kind of like a checkpoint for explorers to kind of be able to move from them into the big east. But now, as basically all that has been discovered, they've been quite a useless nation. They haven't really done much, they haven't really helped anybody. So because of this we are having this state in here break away from them, and it's gonna be a huge part of their nation. Essentially the state of Mentasia will be broken apart into two pieces, with this being the new state, and it will release over in here. And as for the capitals of the two new states, first of all, the new blue state in here will have its capital here in the south, very close to the border with Ivoria. And as for the seafoam green state, it will have its capital roughly towards the middle west of the nation, in between Ivoria and Sabrosia. But now we need to go over to Algely. In the last episode we saw the breakup of the African Union that they had over here with Lovia, or what's now the successor state of Lovia. And although they are the original nation being Algely, this new successor state of Lovia is not Lovia, it's a successor state to it. The reason I'm still calling it Lovia is because I didn't find a name for it, but once I find, we'll stop referring to this nation as Lovia and just whatever the new name is, and we are just gonna see it as the successor state to it. But Algely, it's literally almost the same state, it's literally the same name and almost the same flag, and that's not really good for them. Their culture has suffered from the times they're part of Merodria, and with this we see a lot of split between the people here in the Morocco region and here into the Algerian Tunisian area. So we'll unfortunately have the split of Algely, but thankfully this split is made peacefully without any fighting. This is how Algeria will get split between its two new states. First of all, we are gonna have in the east, here into the Algerian Tunisian parts, we'll have a new state being formed in here, and in the west we are gonna have this Moroccan state being formed. And with this we see the split of Algeria right after it came back, unfortunately. Is it unfortunate? Yes, but they did this so that they do not risk any fighting between their territories, and this allows them to kind of have a better relation between the states over here in Morocco, Tunis and Libya, and also for the capital of the Moroccan state. The capital of the Moroccan state will be here into this major city of the state. But going away from the split of Algeria, we're now gonna go to another nation collapsing. Guess what? There's a lot of nations collapsing in this era, and we are gonna go back to the little state here into Central Asia. These guys really can't catch a break. They also had to release this province in the last episode, and now they're gonna be releasing two, as these two provinces will split away from the nation. Pretty much people have figured out that in this nation, if you are revolting enough and protesting against the government, you'll basically get permission to get your independence, and this is what happens as this state also turns independent. They'll decide to plop their capital right here on the border to the Grey Nation. I'm sure this is a wonderful idea and will cause absolutely no issues to them, and this will be the greatest idea they ever had. But actually not really, because now we need to talk about the Grey Nation. As we can see, the Grey Team, or Melumia, is a democratic nation. They really had no issues with their government until now, as they experienced a lot of instability. There's like 3 different parts of the nation that want to split away from the main government, and this will not sit very well with the leaders, and more exactly with the main ruler of the nation. So we'll kind of have him basically come over and take full control of the nation and turning it into a dictatorship, so that he can like take control of the nation, and basically what he says will make it more stable. We'll see about that. And now going to Zirdia, aka one of the most unknown nations in my Wicso. Even they can't escape instability, as they're gonna have this one province break away. The province will break away in this region. This is kind of the more outer area of the nation. Now let's remember, Zirdia was formed because of literal drunk people, so they aren't necessarily the most stable of nations, but over centuries they have accumulated power and stability, but it's not really enough to keep control of them to the point that they would be able to keep control of all their nation. Their capital will be here in the very northern tip of Iceland, and this also does it for their capital. But these guys have a pretty cool idea. This idea is to explore. Now we are in about 1000 AD, and he feels that like by this point, about almost 5000 years of civilization, the earth should just be fully discovered, and he will try to help with that, as he sends some explorer groups and they find Greenland, and this is the first time people have ever been into North America, as Greenland is and will also be in this timeline considered part of North America. So this is a very huge step for humans, but they don't really discover mainland North America, so for now this isn't like anything huge, but it would be for them as the little nation that they are, as they discover a huge piece of land that maybe in the future they might be able to claim. They explore around all of this, and after they explore all of this, they kind of go back and tell everyone what they have found. They have done one of the greatest human explorations since the mass explorations that happened over here in Asia. Now going over here to the nation of Raxim and the pirates, yeah, the inevitable happens and the two groups meet each other and they are kind of staring at each other, very confused. Now Raxim knows about the rest of the world obviously, but the pirates, I mean, they also had an idea of who they were, but weren't really very notified about what they are. So they end up clashing and it's very easily the pirates that win. They destroy Raxim and now we are gonna have the establishment of the pirate state. And the pirate state will form itself around here into the Isle of Java, Indonesia, while also taking some of these territories in Sumatra, but similar to the theme of the era, they are not gonna become too big as instability is still a thing for them. And surprisingly enough, the pirate group will even get the capital, which is quite interesting as, you know, they weren't really very land based. It's only really now that they kind of started to settle the land. They are like kind of boat people. But after they formed their state and embarrassed Raxim in the war, they'll now go and explore even more of the Indonesian archipelago, as now they discover Timor-Leste and now they'll go and explore some more islands. You know, the rivalry between these two will kind of become the theme of this region, as now Borneo starts to get a bit explored, not too much though, as this is not their main focus. Also, Raxim will attempt to kind of discover a bit of it. They also meet up with them, with the pirate group, and the pirate group embarrasses them again. But at the end of the day, these guys keep going like this, exploring territory and doing pretty well. They discover a lot of these islands in here and having overall a pretty great time discovering land. And by the end of the exploration, this is what they discover. Now going to Persia, it's once again gonna have kinda a bit too much instability for their own will. Will now end up rebellious and there's gonna be some pretty harsh fighting in here by Persia, but overall they will have to release them as the group is getting a bit too rebellious and a bit too dangerous and a lot of people get killed in this, but at the end of the day they gain their independence, so I guess for them it was worth, not really the Persians though. As for their capital, it would be on this Indian peninsula right around there. First of all, going over to Porazia, they are fairly unstable. In fact, like many of their neighbors in many of the countries in this era, they are very unstable, and basically there is a very big ethnic split around the middle of their nation, so they will collapse and split into two new states. This is how the country will get split. First of all, we'll have here in the east of the nation, we'll have this purplish state being formed in here, and in the west we'll have this greenish state being formed in here, taking the capital of the former state, and this is how the state will be split like. The capital of the new Pakistani state will be around in here, and that's it. We now have completed the split of this nation, which now no longer exists. But we aren't gonna go far because Persia is once again getting very unstable. It seems like really they can't figure out the stability in their state, and we'll see this leading to a pretty bad rebellion happening over in here. First of all, we'll have the rebellion pop around here in the north. It's a goldish state in here. Quickly it will connect up with the lime team and from here proceed to take a lot of land from Persia, as now it also connects with the ocean. It will trap these Indian divisions up here in the north, which will get wiped out pretty quickly, and now starting to go down south. But around here Persia finally mobilizes and starts to push the state over in here, as this is more of an anarchist state. They are not very well commanded. They don't really have a very stable government, but the group is pretty determined to get its independence, so they'll manage to make a pretty big encirclement over in here, which will wipe out all these Persian divisions, and when they keep going down south, it is here that Persia's government essentially gets forced to make a peace treaty with this group and will have the group getting its independence. And the new Indian state will pop out over in here, and it will gain its independence from Persia. And as for its capital, it will not be that far to where they have began, and it will be around in here. And now we once again see a new state, and now Persia is very weakened, and now they are for sure no longer in the strongest nations in the world. And for the final event into the Indian subcontinent, we'll go to the Sri Lankan state, and this is not gonna last either. We are gonna have some rebellions pop here in the north and start to invade over in the state. They'll kinda make a march down south to their capital, which they succeed to take and force the government into surrender. For the peace treaty, we'll have the new state gain its independence over here in the northern province of Sri Lanka, and now Sri Lanka is way smaller and have just had to spit this state out. And as for their capital, they will plop it up here into the northern tip of the Sri Lankan island, as that's where a pretty big major city is located. And now India is a lot more diverse and, to be honest, not as united as it used to be in previous episodes. Now going over into the Sahara, we have Kimrush we have the nation of Kimrush here into the middle of the Sahara, being very, and I mean very unstable. Recently we saw kind of their mini ally in here get wiped out, and something very similar is about to happen with them, as they are very unstable. Instability is going through the roof, and basically everyone rebels away. We'll have a lot of foreign tribes coming to here and break away from the state. They will kind of form their own mini tribes, and at one point we just have the entire state being dissolved, as here into this Saharan region we pretty much see like 1,000 tribes coming to here, take power, and it's pretty gruesome. Basically everyone is fighting over in here, but I really can't show this on the map because I need to have like 1,000 pixels of different colors. Now going to this light blue Russian state, which broke away from Mantasia a while ago. Although this state broke away, they aren't very stable as well, and they'll end up having to release some land up here in the north. And we'll have them release some land over in here in the north with this province and this province, which will be newly created. And for the capital of this new country, we'll have their capital be around here into the middle of their nation. And now Russia is even more split, and now the relations between these states, you know, they are kind of mixed. Like before, Russia used to be very united, but now it's kind of whatever. But I mean, it's fine, I guess. At least it's more stable in a way. Yeah, doesn't matter. But guess what? In case you thought that the Russian region couldn't get more unstable, I'd like to say that you are very wrong, and because of this we are now gonna go to the Estonian nation, and they are seeing similar instability to basically everyone else, as most of these nations have already lost land and now it's their turn. Although they are one of the weaker nations in the world, this doesn't mean they are safe from splitting even more and becoming even weaker, as now we are gonna see this Estonian part break away, as this is more of a St. Petersburg nation, showed by the fact that their capital is in the territory of modern day Russia. And because of this we are gonna have the new state breakaway over in here in Estonia, including the 2 Estonian islands, and the transfer has been completed. Or I guess rather said the breakaway, but anyway, this doesn't really matter, as we are also gonna have the new independent Estonian state put their capital on this Estonian island, and now we got another new nation formed out of already what is one of the weakest nations in the world. Good job, Estonia. But now going away from the Russian region, we need to go over here to Central Asia, going back to these guys. In the last episode I mentioned how Melumia went dictatorial. They are basically radicalized and also very unstable, and because of this the leader basically proclaimed him supreme leader of the nation, and this doesn't at least fit quite well with the people that are already pretty in favor of splitting the state, so we are gonna have a civil war. These are the sides in the civil war, and we are now gonna turn on the province layer, and the three rebellious groups basically sign a treaty between each other saying like, hey, we ain't invading each other, we are all three gonna go and invade only the main government. They all agree to this, and then we see the civil war begin, as now group 1 will start to invade over in here into these lesser populated parts, getting supplies from their orange counterpart from the south, and they will do a pretty good advancement over in here through the parts that they wish to annex. But then they'll do something very bad for the main government as they connect up with the lake and basically separate the two parts of the nation in here. Even worse, they are now gonna continue to go over in here and start to take territory from Melumia, as the state is pretty much in shambles. They are destroyed, they are collapsed, their government is useless, and this is about what the Cyan Rebellion will get. Because now we are gonna see the Northern Rebellion go over in here and claim a lot of this part, as already the main forces were wiped out by the Cyan Rebellion, and they'll do something similar as they connect up with the lake, and from here they start to basically march throughout the eastern parts of Melumia. Then there goes the third rebellion, being kind of this brownish black rebellion, as they sweep across and basically blitz to the border of the Cyan Rebellion, and then they kind of do also a connection with the lake, but then the rest of this part will go over to the Cyan Rebellion. No big deal for the Brown Rebellion, as also they were pretty much the ones who proposed the treaty that these three shouldn't attack each other but rather the main government. And this will be very beneficial for them, as they will go up north and snag the capital, execute the leader, and from here the country will basically collapse, as now the Brown Rebellion goes over here and takes all of this land into kind of the southeast of the nation, and then the rest will get annexed by this Northern Rebellion, and let's say the division of Melumia. This is the peace treaty that the three rebellions draft between Melumia. First of all, we'll have the Cyan Rebellion taking all this land here in the south. Then in the north, we'll have the Northern Rebellion achieve its goal of, well, uniting the north of the state. And then the Southern Rebellion will take the rest, including the capital of the former nation. And interestingly enough, they keep their capital in here. As for the two other rebellions, the Cyan one puts their capital right here next to the lake, and similar enough, the same will happen to the Northern Rebellion, which will put it right here, and actually all the three capitals are in very close proximity to each other, which is quite scary, but not really when you consider that these states are still actually quite friendly. Now into the Central Asian team, these guys couldn't catch a break at all, and now this is gonna be the same, as now we see a revolution pop out here in the south. The intentions of this group, which is still an oligarchy like the main government, surprisingly enough, but this oligarchy has way more support for the people, and they rebel in here in the south as they want to overthrow the government. Although still oligarchical, they are a better oligarchy and a better government, so they get the support of the people, and this is how they manage to take a lot of land here into the east of the nation. They basically consolidate all of this front, kind of storm up here to the north of the Orange State. They get successful enough to wipe out this group, and then they make a spearhead over to the capital of the purple state. They take it, and with this they overthrow them and force them into surrender. In the peace treaty, the borders remain the same. They still keep their capital where the old one used to be, but the difference is that this is now a new government, a new oligarchy, and also on the map it's a new color, it has a new flag, and even a new name, but we'll have to wait until I update the layers. But now we are gonna go over to the Pokian Union, as something very huge and very bad is about to happen for them. A pretty historical event, and this is a very old country returning. And we'll have the rebellion of Makia. Now hold up, this is not at all the same state, kinda similar to what I said a few episodes ago about Lovia. This is not the same state, this is just a successor state to it. But at the end of the day, it's still a successor state, and it has the culture of the former state, as now they rebel away from the Pokian Union. They are never really pro-union, and now they break away. They go around in here and reclaim their island, and the Pokian Union is very shocked by this and pretty stunned, as they didn't see something as them having a rebellion in this area. They thought they assimilated it quite well, but apparently they didn't, and now they'll have to get up their army and fight this rebellion. Although this rebellion is very harsh and very cruel, the Pokian Union is still one of the strongest nations in the world, so they go in here and reclaim a major city, but here in kind of the, let's say, suburbs of the nation, where there's not a lot of people and not a lot of major cities, the gold team will be pretty successful with some pretty good war strategies to repel away the Pokian Union and liberate these territories, but it is around here that the front gets tailed out. And you know, the Pokian Union does get a lot of resources and supplies from Teria, and more especially from Aldicta, as they are helping them a lot. But you know, these resources are limited, and when they've been fighting with the Makian rebellion for about 2 years, this is where their supplies finally ran out, as now the Makian rebellion will sweep across these lands and then make an encirclement of the major city. They capture it, they start to push around here, and this is when the Pokian Union will agree to peace with the rebellion and promise them their independence. And the peace treaty is an embarrassing one, as the Pokian Union will have to release all of the former territory of Makia. And again, mind you, even their color is different, so they are not the same state, but they are a successor state to it, and now they've broken away from the Pokian Union, which now had failed its only purpose. The former capital of Makia no longer exists, so they will put their capital into this major city, and now they got a capital. But this really doesn't matter, as this is still a very embarrassing defeat for them. And this is a huge win for them, as this is a huge win for Makia, as they regain their independence. But the Pokian Union, now after losing the war, will be looking for some allies, and they'll be lucky, as they'll go over to Aldicta and sign an alliance with them. And we'll have the formation of the Circle Alliance between Aldicta and the Pokian Union, the two nations which have already lost land here in the Age of Fragmentation, will now put their forces together. They will join forces, become friendly with each other, and will form an alliance together to prevent stuff like this from happening again and to ensure each other's independence. Now jumping over here into Greenland, we'll have the entirety of the island being discovered, and this is a huge step for human evolution, as now we are literally very close to the discovery of North America, which might, interestingly enough, come very soon. Not too much will happen with the pirates, but they will discover the rest of Sumatra and this island in here, and that's basically it. Now going to the stability layer, first of all, this thing is very outdated. I should really update this, but this is not what matters, and we are gonna go to their Landia. But stuff are about to not go as well, as now we'll see them decrease from an yellow stability, which is kind of like average, to an orange stability, and this is because the Polish regions are very, and I mean very unstable. They are hell unstable, and because of this we'll have a rebellion pop out. This rebellion pops out here in the north in the Kaliningrad region, and this nation will be known as North Romania. First of all, we'll have North Romania start to advance over in here into the Baltic regions, taking kind of all of this Rigan, Latvian region away from Derlandia and meeting up with the Estonian state, St. Petersburg and Ivoria, all three being very fond of the independence of North Romania as they are very aligned with their religion. Now we are gonna see North Romania start to advance over in here and connect over with their two exclaves and thicken their border with Ivoria, but this is finally where Derlandia comes in and starts to push away North Romania as they re-liberate this one exclave and start to push over in here, meeting up almost with the kind of core area of the state. As now North Romanian forces will march through the south and kind of punch the Derlandian divisions through here, and although Derlandia is successful in repelling these attacks and starting to advance into the core land of the North Romanian rebellion, they'll now go through here from the north. Derlandia will sense this opportunity and they will retreat a lot of their troops in here, which is a very smart move as they didn't want to get encircled, and instead they will use these troops to push into here, but the damage is already basically done as now basically everyone is supplying them. Everyone is supplying the North Romanian rebellion, most especially over here into the Russian region as I just said, and then they start what is meant to be a spearhead towards the German capital of Derlandia, but this is where the government is basically told by the people and by some high-ranking officials to basically surrender over to North Romania and grant them their independence, and this is what they do. So let's see the very big peace treaty. This is the peace treaty, and we have North Romania gaining its independence over here into the north of Poland to kind of the Baltic regions, and their capital will be right here into Kaliningrad, and Derlandia had for sure taken a hit from this war as they were the second strongest nation in the world. They are very strong, don't get me wrong, but they had a bit too much instability in this region, and this led to the rebellion and to them losing this piece of land. First of all, and before everything can happen and before the whole plotline of the Americas getting discovered, we need to go over here into Central Asia, over to Dulmush, as we recently saw some pretty bad stuff happen to all their neighbors, and all this bad stuff is represented by fragmentation, stuff that is about to happen in their nation as well. And we see a civil war pop up with this dark blue group and this skin color group which break away from Dulmush. So let's see this civil war. Immediately Dulmush will sense some pretty bad management in the skin group, as it's only one province that breaks away. So I guess I'm gonna show the province layer so you can kind of figure out what these rebellions are and where they come from. But Dulmush will immediately send their army over here and pop out the first group, and now it's only the dark blue one. But the dark blue one isn't as weak as the skin one, and they managed to do some pretty good counter-offensives against the main government. I'm not sure, in fact I know for a fact that this part is what has been drained in real life by the Soviets, so in reality there is no fighting in here. I'm just kind of making it according to this map, but in reality most of the fighting is up here in the north more. Even though, yes, we'll also have here in the south happen some offensives against the government of Dulmush, and in fact we see the rebellion going over and snagging the capital. But after this, basically Dulmush will come and sit with the Blue Rebellion for a peace treaty. And in the peace treaty, we see the Blue Rebellion breaking away like this from Dulmush, and now they are an independent state. They basically split the country in half and took half of it. Going over to the province layer, this is what they take. They pretty much split the nation diagonally, and they will also get the capital. Their capital will be up here into the north of the nation, and now they got a capital and the civil war is over that way, and now we can go do some other stuff. For example, we are gonna witness the collapse of Soshu. This huge Siberian nation has previously lost land here in the Kamchatka Peninsula, and now they are about to lose their entire nation. First to go will be the slime group up here in the north, and if we go over to the province layer, we see that they claim over this whole province from Soshu. Second to go will be this pink province over into here, into the very east of the nation. This is pretty much kind of the way between Asia and North America, which we are about to discover soon, but doesn't matter. And for the final split of Soshu, we have their last two provinces separating away, with the western one in here being this yellowish country, and over here their main capital area will be this red country over here. And now it is finally gone. Honestly, it took me a bit too long to kill them. I think I should have done it a bit earlier, but you know, it is what it is. And now we are gonna add the capitals to all the countries. First of all, your capital goes there, yours goes in here, and for the pink nation is gonna come over into here. And now we are done, and we have added capitals to all the nations. And now the big moment has come, the discovery of the Americas. But what matters now to question is how they will be discovered, and we are gonna go to none other than Derlandia. In the last episode we saw Derlandia lose their territory over here in North Romia due to a very big rebellion that happened in here, and now Derlandia is pretty embarrassed. They were and still are the second strongest nation in the world, but this for sure didn't help their image compared to Teria, which is still doing very great. And they are looking for revenge, and they are looking for some redemption arc, and they will find it in neutralist Hibernia. And we see the Derlandian troops go over the Hibernian border and start to invade over into Hibernia. At first they have a lot of success and start to swarm over their territory, and eventually they take their entire claim over the British Isle, or to be more exact, the Isle of Great Britain, and now they are looking towards Ireland. Poor neutralist Hibernia didn't really see Derlandia doing this. I mean, they kinda did, but they didn't really think they would be so successful or actually do it, or even more, the world being completely fine with this happening. But still, we are not really in the age of diplomacy or anything, so countries aren't gonna condemn Derlandia for this, so they will start and continue to invade over into Hibernia as they get no hope. They put a lot of their people on boats around like this into the ocean on their fleet, getting ready to flee the nation as Derlandian troops come from here. Around from here, very brave Hibernian soldiers will manage to hold out Derlandia up until here, as now more people are ready to flee the nation. And this is finally where Derlandia has its major breakthrough. They go and capture the capital, and basically everyone flees the country as Derlandia goes over and occupies all of it. And with this we see Hibernia fleeing with their people on boats. Now, tracking their path, they go over here from the isle, and they kind of go over here towards the south. This is basically kind of like a mass fleeing of the population, kind of what we saw over here with the pirate group. But this time it isn't anything rebellious, and it's just for them to be able to save their nation, as currents blow them away. And eventually they reach these islands over in here. They take as many resources as they can from these islands. These islands shouldn't have been discovered. I don't know why they are white, But they do not know this is actually so close to Africa, because if they did, they would probably debark over there. But from here, Hibernia, after taking all these resources, will continue down south, as they are more than likely being chased by Derlandia. To be more exact, Derlandia really is chasing them, as they send their fleet of navy over in here and start to kind of go through their marked path. But Derlandia sees a lot more unluck, as they divert from the original path of Hibernia's fleet and of its refugees, and then we see Derlandia pretty much get blown by currents and they end up in Newfoundland. As for Hibernia, they still keep around half a year, 6 months, still on the boats, trying to find land, and eventually currents also blow them away in a very stormy night, and eventually they reach the shores of South America in the island of Trinidad and Tobago. Now this is about the tracks of both of the fleets, so take it in and remember, because we are now gonna break it down. So first of all, it's Derlandia that lands over in North America in 1367 over here into Newfoundland, Canada, as they start to explore these areas. And first they think this is Africa. They are pretty confused, as they don't see anyone over in here. I mean, they do see people but like they do not look at all as people that will be found in Africa, which are like Derlandians, Therians. But no, this is like a new group of people. What are these? Well, these are indigenous tribes, and they are pretty confused. They are not gonna ask themselves too much, and they are gonna keep exploring. Eventually, after discovering the whole island, they will kind of go back and tell everyone what they have found, and they will now come with a way bigger fleet and army to explore this land, as now they move very massively throughout the Quebec area. They discover even more islands over in here, and then they go along the coast of Quebec and land into New England, over here into parts of Canada and into USA. You know, they are very intrigued by their new discovery. Eventually they meet up with the Great Lakes, which is pretty good for them. You know, good source of water. Now they don't have to rely on the ocean. But eventually they kind of go over here and discover the entire Quebec Peninsula, and by now they have realized that they have discovered a whole new piece of territory. And not only this, they have finally found out that they have discovered a whole new freaking continent. While that was happening though, and this exploration happened after over like a decade, we have 6 months after the original landing in North America, still in 1367, but over here into South America, and 6 months later we see the Hibernia fleet and refugees land over in here in South America, in Trinidad and Tobago. From there they go into what's modern day Venezuela, and from there they kind of explore across the Guianas, as this is some very new territory, similar enough to Derlandia. They think this is southern Africa, but again, the people that they see here are indigenous tribes that they have no idea existed, and fair enough, not literally no person in the world from this part knew about these people. And you know, they are gonna be quite intrigued by this. First of all, I need to say this, going back to the British Isles, we see Derlandia annexing Hibernia, as they are gone. You know, there's only like a few people there to kind of, well, govern over the nation, and the people that are there pretty much made a peace treaty with Derlandia, telling them, yeah, just annex this and leave us alone. And to be honest, Derlandia is gonna take this peace treaty, as this is exactly what they wanted, and they'll now use their new land to send even more fleets of people over here to discover what's happening. Meanwhile, though, Hibernia is quite desperate. They have just lost their nation and now they don't freaking know what to do. They have found themselves in some territory that they have never seen. Now they kind of discover these areas, but then they meet up with a very dangerous Darien Gap. They have struggles to go through there, so they will for now only remain with this, and Derlandia will remain with these parts in Quebec explored. Now Hibernia without territory, they will now go over here and start their new nation, or better said restart, over here into South America, in Venezuela, into these parts they have explored, and now they are gonna get some stable borders. This is now their new territory. They are now over here in Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago, and these islands in the Caribbean, and they are gonna attempt to build a capital over in Trinidad and Tobago, and it will take multiple years, but finally they will finalize it and put their capital. Here is where their capital goes, around in the middle of the island, and now Hibernia has basically rebooted. Now Derlandia is about to have a surprise, as they were occupied to explore these lands. They go over here onto these Canadian islands, they explore them, and after they explore this one they see a pretty big island in the distance. They go over in here and guess what? It's Greenland, and from there Iceland, and from there they are back home. So they kinda established a connection route over here through Greenland. Now it's not really a connection route, but what they will do is that pretty much a big port will be used over here into Greenland, kinda as a checkpoint between North America and Europe, and this leads to some pretty cool stuff happening now. And also Derlandia will not stop exploring, as now they go over here and discover this very huge Nordic island in Canada, whatever. And after this happens, they will end up considering all of this territory that includes Greenland, the Canadian islands, and the Quebecan territories. They'll now consider this a new continent, and this is the continent of North America. As for Hibernia, though, they have realized this is a new continent, but their discovery is not known yet by humans. There are some rumors here and there that there's also been a second new continent being discovered, but these are not full worldwide known knowledge. So for now, this is what the humanity is left with. And for the final event of the video, after we see Derlandia explore all of these lands into North America and annexing Hibernia, which was a pretty big threat to all their neighbors, now I'll go over here to North Romia and Ivoria, both being very scared of a Derlandian invasion, more so North Romia, which literally broke off from them, so it's not too far-fetched to imagine that Derlandia would try to get them back, so we'll see this to make an alliance. And with this we'll have the formation of the Diamond Alliance between Ivoria and North Romia. Both of these nations very scared of Derlandia. I mean, fair enough, Derlandia has been pretty threatening soon, so this alliance is formed to prevent Derlandian expansion towards the east, and this will work for now. First of all, we need to go to the Caucasian nation because they are hell unstable. To be more exact, these eastern parts of their nation here into the Caspian Sea, these are very unstable, and they'll decide to leave the green team. And we'll see the new nation leave the green team over in here, and this is our new nation. And now we are gonna go over to the province layer, and moving over to the capital layer, we see that this is the provinces that our new nation gets. And as for their capital will be next to the Caspian Sea, and it will be right here. So with this we got once again a new nation, and fragmentation continues. Now Dulmush will finally meet its demise. Although it managed to defeat the Skin Rebellion in the last episode, it lost to the blue one, and after a century or something like that, we'll have them become too unstable and eventually we'll have them to end. And with the dividing lines, we'll have the new orange state being formed in here and the new kind of grayish state or something like this form over here in the south. There goes Dulmush, and now we'll not go too far, more exact to be up north to Yozium, as they are also being very unstable. It's honestly impressive that they have survived this much, but now our new Siberian nation needs to end in here. Okay, I suppose I was a bit too dramatic by saying that they will have to end. They will not, they will only like lose this Arctic Circle territory in here, and they remain basically with kind of the southern part. It's still not very good for them, but they are slightly better. Now going over here to Hauria, they are also gonna suffer some stuff. They never got the chance to shine like the real Mongol Empire from real life, and it shows as now they'll have to release this one province, similar enough due to like foreign tribal attacks, which is quite ironic because that's what Mongols did in real history, but they will in this timeline have to release this piece of territory as they couldn't hold on to it, and they will release it like this. And now, although they are smaller, they are still intact, so I guess it's not that bad for them. Going over to the pirates now, they will go ahead and discover the Tough Archipelago, aka the Philippines Archipelago, and they'll get discovered like this, and now they know about the Philippines. Yippee. Now going to Hibernia, in the last episode we saw them getting crushed by Derlandia and forced to refugee over in here. They are scared, they are traumatized from what had happened, and now their future generations will have to grow up not in their homeland of the British Isles, but rather in a whole new continent, being South America. And now they will go over in here and explore the Ecuador area. This is pretty much what they will do, as they really can't do anything else. Also, they will kind of go over in here and end up discovering Dominica, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica. Poor Jamaica, I heard some pretty bad stuff happening in real life. Anyway, it doesn't really matter for our scenario. And they'll discover kind of like this, and now they'll do some expansions. For them, the whole plot of, don't expand in the Age of Fragmentation doesn't really apply for them, as, they are struggling with other stuff, so them having government overthrows and all that is not really an issue for them. They have a pretty good leadership. So also the people are very united considering what had just occurred for them. So they will happily expand over in here and into this island. And if there's something they want is to freaking go back and retake their homeland. They have lost it pretty unfair to Derlandia. So, they are kind of using this as a refugee spot. Also they will go over here and take Puerto Rico, as they kind of want to also get some naval supremacy in here, because that's basically what crushed them in the war with Derlandia. But for now they are alone in South America. Going over to the Alliance layer and into Europe, we see someone new joining the Triangle Alliance, being none other than the Lime French nation. They've got freed in the War of Empires a while ago from the Romani Empire, and around 600 years later they decided that the best thing they could do to avoid a history like that repeating is to join up with the Triangle Alliance. And this is what they do, as they join forces with Tanish and the Siberian Union, aka Siberian Union, don't get that confused. And now if let's say some stuff were to happen, like some government overthrowing into the Romani Republic and an imperialist government coming back, it would be pretty hard to retake France, as now they are protected by these guys. And guess what? This is exactly what's about to happen, as stuff has been going pretty hard through the Romani Republic. They've recently gone through a pretty bad economic crisis. Understandably enough, they lost their empire, and now they are a republic. They are technically better, but really they don't know what to go from here or how to go from here. So we are left with civil war. And we see pro-Romani imperialists breaking out in the south into Sicily and into the boot of Italy. And in the north we see the Romani theocratics, basically the religious guys, break out in the north. And now the Romani Republic is questioning itself. First to attack will be the Romani imperialists, as they quickly go and seize Sardinia, and from there they make a landing over in here into Corsica, followed pretty shortly by the theocratics also making a landing in here. But guess what? The theocratics and imperialists are not friendly with each other. Although they thought they were, at least the theocratics. The imperialists go ahead and invade Corsica and take it all for them, followed by them quickly moving throughout the boot of Italy and start to march up north in a similar way as Teria did in the War of Empires, and quickly go up to Rome and start to siege the city. They move throughout these territories, and now it seems like the Romani Republic is in trouble. Even more in trouble it seems to be when the theocratics also invade and connect up with their two exclaves and cut the Romani Republic into two. But then we'll have something pretty dumb happening. And this is that the Romani imperialists will do something pretty dumb, this being landing into the Balearic Islands in the Siberian Union and seize the islands. And well, we see big old triangle lines in here that has got violated, and yeah, there's nothing more I can say. And we have the triangle lines intervening in the war on the side of the Romani Republic. First of all, the Siberian Union, as the 10th strongest, or by now probably even higher, probably around the 7th strongest nation in the world, will quickly go and take back the Balearic Islands. And now the Roman Republicans alongside French forces will go and crush the theocratics. And yeah, the theocratics really didn't live for that long. And although they have successfully defeated the theocratics, the imperialists in the south will still get the advantage, as they managed to take the city of Rome, and it seems like now the Romani Republic is about to fall. Not so fast, because Stanish makes a landing into the Italian peninsula and reliberates this part. From here they kind of attack them from the back and go throughout the parts that they have literally just invaded a while ago. And now they go back and reliberate these parts while also taking Sicily, kind of the starting point of this rebellion. Also we now see the Siberian Union making a landing into Sardinia and Corsica and reliberate those. And from here the Romani Empire, or the Romani imperialists, will now be pushed back to Rome, and from here they will be squished back to nothingness. The Romani Republic has, thankfully, and mostly with the help of the Triangle Alliance, survived the Romani civil war that has caused an unnecessary amount of death in their country. But now I guess they are safe, and now we need to go to do something else, because this had taken a bit too much time. Netherlandia, with now the help of the Triangle Alliance, will go and continue to explore here into North America, as now they are very much enjoying exploring through here. Now don't get me wrong, there's not a lot of Triangle Alliance explorers, there's just kind of a bit, you know, they are kind of also a bit curious like what could happen in here, what could be in these new explored and discovered areas. And to be honest, there'll be quite some good stuff. They find the Great Lakes, which is great. They make a landing over in here, which is pretty vital. They build some cities in here, and we'll now have the settlement of the first ever Derlandian colony. And we'll have the settlement of the first Derlandian colony over in here, as now they've been in North America for quite a while, and they've been here for long enough to kind of start to push Derlandian people to move in here. And this now leads to, well, Derlandia finally completing their dream of settling North America. And from here it does really seem like a lot of potential could be in here, and this sparks some pretty big interest for multiple nations to go in here and maybe make colonies of their own. Such nations that might be interested could be the Siberian Union, could be the French country, it could even be Danish for until a point, as they are still stuck in the Mediterranean. But overall, these are pretty much all the countries that could really go and colonize. But for now, Derlandia is here and Derlandia is happy, so we'll see. Okay, I know I said that Hauria is alright, but they really aren't, as now we'll have them having to release these territories of their nation, as they were a bit too unstable, a pretty common theme throughout this nation. And we'll also even have this new province being formed over in here, and they'll release this territory under a new nation, as Hauria was getting a bit too unstable. But now we need to talk about something pretty serious that's about to happen in the world, and this is discussing Derlandia. Now Derlandia, after pretty much becoming the king of the world again, they have started to colonize North America, they got Britain, they really have made a name for themselves even after the War of Empires, even since then. But now they've done a greater job at that, and although they have lost their land over here in North Romia, they still managed to kind of cover that up and to kind of make the world forget about that. And they show that even though they did lose land, they are not weak in any circumstances. And now under a new leader, they want to show off that they can't only just lose land or retake new land, but they could also go and reclaim old land. So we'll have Derlandia go over here, and for the third time in history, they will declare war on Nambium, the Scandinavian nation. The last time Derlandia and Nambium had smoke with each other was many centuries ago, to be more exact around 800 years ago or something like that. This is a pretty rough approximation, but still, what you need to know is that they haven't been at war for a very long time. But now when Derlandia starts to invade Nambium, this is finally when the world gets sick of Derlandia, and to be more exact, the Eastern Europeans get sick of Derlandia, and they will organize the Derlandian coalition. They will organize a coalition to overthrow Derlandia and to finally save Scandinavia, and more exact Nambium, and to take away the threat that Derlandia is for these nations. First of all, the Diamond Alliance joins the coalition. Second of all, we see that the Finnish nation joins the coalition. Then we see the Crimean nation join the coalition. We see Estonia join the coalition. We see Sabrosia join the coalition. And finally, we'll see even Caucasia join the coalition against the Derlandian Empire. Derlandia has played around too much with Eastern Europe, and they will finally have to pay the repercussions, as now the coalition against Derlandia, the Derlandian coalition, will take place, and we'll see how it turns out in the next episode. And this will do it for today's video. Please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.